morning. Looks like the room is starting to fill up, so I think we can start this off, and I'm sure more people will kind of just filter in as this gets going. So I wanted to thank everyone for joining us today. My name is Phil. I'm with Nexus Mutual, and I am really excited about hosting today's space alongside my buddy George from OpenCover. We'll be getting into the details of the newest groundbreaking product from OpenCover and Nexus Mutual, but I want to save the honors of that for our friend Jeremiah here in a minute. You can see we have some heavyweights in the base ecosystem on the panel today, so let's kick it off by going around and having everyone introduce themselves. Could you all tell us a little bit about your backgrounds and what you're building now? Why don't we kick it over to Jeremiah to start?
Awesome. Thanks, Phil. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. I'm Jeremiah, co-founder and CEO at OpenCover. I've been building in the blockchain space since 2017 and focusing more specifically on on-chain finance on DeFi since 2021. We launched OpenCover in 2022. It's the first on-chain cover broker, really, so we kind of operate similarly to an insurance MGA. We essentially help folks stay safe on-chain by building and or distributing cover products which protect against protocol and transaction risk. We're backed by Coinbase Ventures, NFX Alliance, Jump, and Orange DAO. And super excited to be here and talk about the base pass today with you guys.
Very cool. George, you want to go next?
Yeah. Hi, Phil. Hey, everyone. Thanks so much for being here. My name's George. I'm part of the OpenCover team, and I'm heading up growth efforts here. I'm really excited to be here today, and really excited to get into the base pass and really dive deeper.
Yeah, very cool. I think this is going to be a really interesting one and a product that a lot of people are going to love. Ace, could you introduce yourself?
Hey, GM, everyone. Ace here from Aerodrome and Velodrome. One of the core contributors managing partnerships, and Aerodrome is we call ourselves the economic engine of base. We're responsible for about half the TVL and the majority of the volume going through all of the various liquidity pools on our decks. We're proud to kind of host some of the most productive ecosystem pools across all of DeFi. Aerodromes, provides the best swaps and the most volume for wrapped ETH, Coinbase BTC, which has now become the most actively traded wrapped Bitcoin derivative in DeFi. We're happy to help a lot of the base native protocols and meme coins grow their liquidity on chain. So I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Sounds like you're staying busy, and we'll definitely have some questions about how you're handling all that activity in just a little bit. Jess, could you give us a quick introduction?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having us here. My name is Jess. I run the business development at XtraFi. XtraFi is a leverage yield farming and lending protocol built on Optimism in the base. So we let our users to farm in diverse pools using customized strategy. On the lending side, users can deposit funds to interest. So all the tokens being lent out is actually borrowed by farmers to perform yield farming. So our interest rate model is based on utilization. With that increased demand for farming on XtraFi, the utilization has been maintained at a very good level which ensures the safety of our users' funds and also bring a very competitive and sustainable APY. In addition to what we have already achieved on base, we are also working on our XtraX, which will be a lending protocol, introduce account abstraction for better user experience. So exciting updates are on the way. Stay tuned, and thanks again for having us.
Very cool. Thank you for joining us. And last but not least, I know him, but he can introduce himself to everyone else. Brave, how's it going?
Hey everyone, it's BraveNewDeFi on the Nexus Mutual main account. I'm the head of product and risk over at Nexus Mutual. I've been contributing to Nexus since 2021. And I'm excited to talk with everybody and learn a bit more about the base DeFi pass with everyone and talk about the growth on base. So I'm ready to get started.
Very cool. Thank you, everyone, for introducing yourselves. Like I said, my name is Phil. I head up marketing here at Nexus Mutual, and that means I have the privilege of working on some awesome product launches, which we are here to talk about today. So this one is for Jeremiah. We're all here to talk about the launch of a totally new product in the DeFi space. Jeremiah, could you give us a rundown of the base DeFi pass and what it was like building this out with Nexus Mutual?
Absolutely. So I'd say the base pass for short is the combination of probably over a year of work with Nexus to create really the best insurance-like product to protect users against protocol risk. So for the backstory, we've been working with Nexus for quite a while, and we started distributing Nexus single product cover, so cover for single protocols on layer 2 about a year ago. And that was already a sort of meaningful step because as mainstream usage is shifting to L2s, it makes sense to purchase cover directly where you have your funds, so on L2s directly. But from there, the sort of ambition was like, can we create a single cover that protects users across most, if not all, of the protocols they use on their favorite L2s? And I'm happy to report that today the answer is finally yes, and that's what the base pass is basically. So the base pass is the first and only insurance alternative which protects users on the leading protocols of a given chain, on Base in this case, and protects them against protocol hacks and bugs, as well as economic events outside of intended protocol operation. So that will be oracle manipulation or failure, liquidation failure, and governance takeovers that are caused by malicious upgrades to the protocol. So in short, it's kind of like the ultimate peace of mind that pretty much anything that happens with any of your positions across the protocols that are supported by the base pass, you get your money back. There are currently 9 supported protocols. That's Aerodrome and XtraFi, of course, Arcadia, Beefy, Compound V3, Morpho, Moonwell, Overnight, and Uniswap V3. And we're also including select composed protocols, which we're calling sub-protocols. So that will be, for example, in the case of Beefy, pools where there's Curve or Balancer. So it's actually more than 9 protocols that are being covered. And long story short, it's basically this sort of like set and forget, pretty much anything you do on Base on the leading protocols you're covered for. And the price is around 0.35%, I think, of the covered value per month. So it's kind of like a fraction of what you'd pay if you purchase those individual covers one by one. And we're basically making that available directly on OpenCover. So you can head to opencover.com/basepass if you want to check it out. And yeah, that's about it. Or actually, George, do we have a link for the listeners to try the base pass if they want to?
We don't right now, but I will just spin one up. Give me a couple of seconds. I'll see if I can do something and post something in the Spaces chat. Yeah, great idea.
Yeah, so we'll make sure that anybody on the Spaces can try the base pass for free. We'd love to hear your feedback if you do. That was your first question, Phil, I think. The second question was working with Nexus. That's a great question. I would say absolutely awesome, I guess, in one word. Super awesome. I'd recommend anyone who wants to build on Nexus to get in touch with the team. Creating and launching the base pass was a super collaborative process. Obviously, we're right at the edge of innovation here, so it's a lot of sort of different skills that have to come together. The support from the Nexus team was stellar. They helped us get initial capacity. And overall, it's always a pleasure to work with Brave, with Phil, and the wider Nexus team.
Yeah, likewise. This has been a really great partnership. It's sort of a new sort of partnership for me, where we're not, actually invested in each other, but it's just really like a win-win where everything aligns and we can help bring products like this to market. So speaking of bringing this to market, just a quick follow-up. I know it's only been live for a few days, but what is sort of the early response and feedback been like?
So what we've been seeing publicly is, folks posting about like, oh my God, finally, I was waiting for this. There's a few users that we had from before launching the base pass who are like, oh my God, finally, I don't need to buy multiple covers. So that's been awesome. We're seeing sales trickle in as well. I haven't counted them today, but the notifications keep on buzzing. So overall, we literally just launched this. So it looks super promising, but it's also in a sense a very sort of obvious product. It was just really difficult to make it happen. But with the, joining forces with Nexus, we managed.
Awesome. I'll kick it over to George for the next question.
Thanks, buddy. Really appreciate that. Yeah, it's been great. It's been great seeing this this product come together from the sidelines and watching everyone work together. It's been amazing. And this question really I've got is for Brave and Jeremiah. You guys started working on the Base DeFi pass over the summer, and Base with respect to TVL is absolutely kind of boomed since then. It's actually recently, I think, eclipsing Arbitrum. What do you guys think has been driving this growth?
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, it's really, I mean, it's the people on this call, of course. Aerodrome, I think, has just done a tremendous job making, LPing more accessible. Really, their model has just been a huge success, and that's driven a lot of supports on Base. But the Coinbase team, the Base team has just been really pushing, getting a lot more people on chain and getting more people onto Base to get into DeFi, to start experimenting. So I think there's been a lot of experimentation on Base that's worked really, really well. And everybody that's on Base has been, improving. But year to date, Base has grown by a factor of 5 in terms of TVL, with more active users on Base than a lot of other L2s. So it's really exciting to see more people coming on chain and getting the experience of working with DeFi and getting into this new paradigm that all of us have been in for a while. So I think that's largely what's driven growth, and that's kind of why we created this Base DeFi Pass, to help people come on chain and participate without worrying about some of the risks and having coverage that's more flexible. But I'll kick it over to Jeremiah to give his perspective as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think echoing you is just number one, the builders. Obviously, you can have a blockchain, but if nobody's building on it, then you pretty much don't have a blockchain. So it's the builders, like everything with respect to sort of UX, like Coinbase Smart Wallet and all of that. And I think there's also a big sort of trust element. Obviously, Coinbase managed to build a great blockchain company despite challenges like regulation and all of that. And so there's also sort of no reason why they wouldn't succeed in building a blockchain network as well. So I think that element of trust is a good sort of foundation to bring on sort of builders and have a flourishing ecosystem. So that's kind of like why we in the very early days started to be interested by Base and launched on Base, I think on Optimism and Base first, actually, OpenCover.
Thanks, guys. It's really, really good to hear your both you guys kind of weigh in on that point. And I mean, both from a professional perspective, working here at OpenCover, and also kind of just personally being on Twitter and engaging in the space myself. It's just been amazing to see the space grow, and super excited for what we can do next. Phil, I'll pass it back to you for your next question.
All right, thank you. Yeah, it's been absolutely wild to see Base take off, and I think it's been a really good sign for the wider DeFi community that, even when the market might be choppy and going sideways, you're still seeing strong adoption, strong use cases getting built out. So, going back to Base and the Base DeFi Pass, Jeremiah, why do you think that this is such an important tool for the wider Base community?
Because it brings peace of mind. Like, if we're telling folks, hey, you should come on chain, it's really cool here, but then you're also exposing them to all of these new risks, unless you're sophisticated, like most of the people probably on this call and who've been in the space and are still in the space, like if you're bringing on sort of less crypto native, non-crypto native folks, it's really difficult to tell them, come on chain, it's awesome, but you also need to like learn all this stuff and protect yourself actively. And being able to say, hey, if you don't want to sort of like constantly do your own research and be super paranoid about security, then there are options which allow you to transfer risk, which allow you to insure yourself against basically most of the things that can go wrong when you use these DeFi protocols. And so I think that's very, very important, and a sign that the blockchain space as a whole is maturing, because this kind of protection did not exist literally, last week.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's about providing people, a very similar experience to what they're used to in the Web 2 and traditional finance world over here in Web 3. And a lot of this risk protection stuff is people don't even think about it because it just sort of already built in to the traditional finance system through the FDIC deposits and how everything is sort of regulated. We don't have that background, so we kind of have to build that foundation ourselves to be able to provide a Web3 experience that is sort of just indistinguishable from Web 2. I think that's when we're going to see more and more people come in when they have that peace of mind and they don't have to worry about, I have to learn a million different things to even interact with the blockchain. But we'll let Jeremiah take a break from the hot seat for a second here and turn our attention over to Ace. Aerodrome is a central trading and liquidity marketplace on Base. You've seen your growth and popularity rise right along with Base. What's the secret to keeping up with a rocket ship?
Well, I think one of the most obvious things everyone sees with Base is that, they've got the largest onboarding funnel of any L2 and potentially any blockchain because of their Coinbase users. So we kind of saw the writing on, which led us to deploy Aerodrome. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with the history and the lore, Aerodrome is a sister protocol of Velodrome, which was launched on OP mainnet in middle of 2022. So we realized, the potential that Base would be bringing, not only because of the users, but because of all of the additional custodied assets from Coinbase's institutional side. So Aerodrome was a pretty clear, specific DEX requirement for the ecosystem. And the other thing is Base, has never shown an intention of launching a token for the L2. And, this severely constrains kind of the bootstrapping for new protocols, liquidity, and it requires an ecosystem specific DEX like Aerodrome to really help, sustainably grow the ecosystem out. So we're pretty proud that we were able to facilitate that. Base is now the second largest, I think it's now the largest layer 2. So that shows that Aerodrome has been integral to kind of helping support that rocket ship momentum, like you said. I think we've kind of reignited the initial excitement around DeFi summer yield farming. We're offering a token emission for liquidity providers, and this is the first time I think we've had an organic kind of layer 2 specific yield farm that has been positive sum. So I think we're seeing kind of the renewed interest in kind of the early primitives from DeFi happen again on Base. So it's all very exciting, and I think quite early too. It's only been just over 14 months since we launched.
Yeah, it's hard to believe it's only been 14 months. I think time moves differently in the DeFi space. It probably feels like 5-10 years to you.
Yeah, I mean, I read a tweet this morning from somebody in the crypto space, and he said he got into crypto when he was 23, and it's been 10,000 years since then. So it definitely feels like time goes by a lot faster in an extremely hyper competitive and open builder environment. But yeah, it's it's even surprised us as far as the meteoric kind of rise of TVL and new protocols and liquidity and users. And a lot of that is thanks to the support we've received from Coinbase and the Base builder side. They've got an awesome DevRel team. They built out some industry-leading wallet infrastructure, incorporate a very seamless and user-friendly way of onboarding, users straight into DeFi without setting up a hot or cold wallet. It's just done in the back end with the Coinbase Smart Wallet. So it's been a real I would say blessing for our team to see the ecosystem kind of grow around us. None of us expected this to be as successful as it has been.
Yeah, love to hear it. I'm going to kick it over to George in just a minute, but just want to let everyone know listening in on the call, if you have any sort of questions for any of our panelists, you can start commenting them below, or if you're going to want to ask them at the end, you can get ready to raise your hand in a little bit. I have a handful more of questions here to kind of go through, but wanted to let everyone know this is supposed to be interactive, so it can be questions about Base, about building and DeFi, it can be about the Base DeFi pass, whatever you want to know. We have a lot of experts up here. So with that, I will kick it back to George.
Thanks, Phil. Yeah, I was just listening, Ace, about what you said. Your friend who got into the space when they were 23 and feels like it's been 10,000 years. I got into the space when I was 23. I'm 26 now, and I found my first grey hair a couple of days ago. So I can definitely speak to the the time element there. Just before I get into my next question, I just wanted you guys to know that it would be great for everyone on this call to feel that they can try out the Base DeFi pass for free. So what we've actually done is we've spun up a link, and I'm going to post that kind of just underneath the spaces in a second. But essentially, if you want to try it, you can head to opencover.com/basepass. And we've opened up a refund link, which is opencover.com/friends. And we're happy to refund kind of anyone on the spaces their first cover up to 10K for 30 days as well. But that being said, I will just I'll get straight into it with my next question. So Jess, XtraFi is a hugely popular leveraged yield strategy and lending protocol on Optimism and Base. Over the last few months, Base has really kind of kicked it up a couple of levels. Did you see this coming? And how sustainable do you think this Base boom is?
That's a great question. At XtraFi, I think we definitely see it coming. As I think Ace kind of mentioned a little bit, we had a similar experience with Aerodrome as well. So the moment we start working with the Base team, we've seen how hardly working, and they are very builder friendly. So over the last few months, Base has also really accelerated their marketing moves. They brought initiatives such as On-Chain Summer, which has brought a lot of attention and engagement to Base. On top of that, I think Base has also constantly improving their transaction speeds. As you may know, the fast and low cost transactions are very crucial for DeFi protocols such as XtraFi or SOPs. One other thing that's also very exciting is the introduction of CBBTC on Base, which bridge Bitcoin liquidity into the ecosystem. This will open up a lot more new opportunities for yield strategy and positions for Base to capture a bigger slice of the DeFi market. With more liquidity coming in and faster and cheaper transactions, Base has already laid down a very solid foundation for long-term growth. So that will also answer the question for sustainability. I think Base is definitely on top of innovation. Like we have seen with CBBTC, we believe the momentum can absolutely continue. The key remaining will be maintaining a developer-friendly environment and scaling to meet the growth demands. But overall, we believe Base has positioned itself very well for the future.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I really appreciate the response there. And I think that Base being seen at the moment as the leading chain for builders is, like you've said, one of those kind of key components that's really allowing things to be sustainable and really bringing not only new builders to the space in general, but also attracting those new audiences too. Now, what I'm going to do is I've kind of got a question directed for everyone here. So let's get straight into it. So kind of crypto and Web3 in general is definitely becoming more mainstream, but there are still a lot of folks out there that really haven't gotten into DeFi. How do you think we can reach this wider adoption? Brave, I'll pass it over to you to kick off.
Yeah, so broadly speaking, my experience when I talk to people about crypto, the on-chain economy, and DeFi, it's just a lot. I think a lot of us that have been in the space for a while don't understand some of the challenges of onboarding new people. But I remember reading along, a while ago, which I guess would be 2 years ago. Everybody's speaking about having gray hairs. I have less hair. But I read that somebody had said it's hard to explain DeFi because a lot of people don't really have a financial background and they don't understand finance that well. It's not something that's taught very well, which I think is a pretty apt point. So getting onboarded into DeFi can be a lot for someone. But a lot of the things that I see are because of the headlines we get in the mainstream media. Hacks are a pretty widespread thing that gets reported, and not a lot of the other things. So when I talk to people, they go, "Well, what about all that money that people lose?" And I go, "No, it's different. The stuff that you see in the news is much different." And when people would bring up FTX, I'm like, "It's not DeFi. It's way different." So, one of the reasons that we created the base DeFi pass is to give people that blanket, to give them confidence to come on chain and participate, in these major protocols. And with the protocols that we have included in the some protocols, you're looking at about 80 to 85% of the TVL on base that would be included in this base DeFi pass. So I think it's a couple of things. I think it's some of that perception about the risk of being on chain, and some of it is just the technology aspect that people aren't used to, and getting it, integrated with some of these financial products that they're not used to using themselves, because typically in our own lives, people are managing money for us, and it's kind of abstracted away from most of us. So I think those are some of the hurdles. I think that people have done a great job on education. I think the base team, the Aerodrome team, XtraFi, like everybody that's building on base has done an excellent job onboarding people. The rise of the Coinbase Smart Wallet has been a big help too, helping people get in more easily. And then you have those pillars. Like Aerodrome is obviously a pillar everyone's building on top of it, including XtraFi, and a lot of the other people in the base DeFi pass. So I think that concerted effort with everybody building and educating people and making it easier to come on chain and onboard and offboard capital between traditional finance and the on chain economy, has been a leading factor on what is getting more people on chain. But the biggest thing I always see is education and awareness. But I think we're kind of on the other side of that bell curve at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think it's been absolutely great over the last couple of years, but actually the last 6 months in general, just to really see such a kind of a step up in the amount of folks that are interested and getting involved in DeFi. And I think, kind of like you said, the Coinbase Smart Wallet initiative and things like on-chain summer is really helping that. I think what's quite good as well about the base DeFi pass is that for new folks coming on chain, it allows that kind of set and forget approach, where people know that, I can interact with these leading protocols. I can deploy my funds. I can have fun, and I can be in this space. But I'm also kind of aware of those risks, and I'm protecting myself from them. But what I'm going to do is, Ace, it'd be great to kind of get your opinion on this. What do you see is needed for that wider adoption?
Yeah, it's interesting because as crypto natives, we are probably the least trustful group of users of any products, and we make decisions based on data and third-party experts like auditors. We read blockchain information from explorers, and the protocols who we're directly onboarding, I would say, are our main target. When it comes to onboarding users, that's where kind of the Web 2 brand makes a lot of impact. And crypto generally, as a brand, I would say, has been 2022 catastrophe of the industry. So Coinbase has a very, very tall order to kind of overcome that perception, and they've done an amazing job. So I think most of the credit, like was previously mentioned, goes to Coinbase and the base team when it comes to bringing in new users at the average like $100, $1,000 wallet size. They're the ones who actually care about UX and like trust and brand perception. So honestly, hats off to them. Again, like our focus, and I think most of the the builders on this space's focus is like, how do you ensure you're complying with like the standards for the best building approaches to like developing smart contracts. Who are you working with on the audit side? How many times have you been audited? Are you battle tested and things like that? So it's kind of a couple pronged approach when it comes to like onboarding. Obviously, you need the liquidity and the the tooling for the protocols to work, but you also have to make sure that you have a great ecosystem partner that can kind of engage the broader, retail and public.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely see that. I've just been kicked out of my George account, so I'm speaking on the OpenCover one now. But no, absolutely. I think that I think bringing these kind of more TradFi kind of Web2 safety approaches to the on-chain space is definitely something that is moving things forward and ultimately allowing folks to have more trust in the space. So that's something that's been great to see. I guess, Jeremiah, it would be great to hear kind of your perspective actually building this thing out with Nexus and kind of with that in mind over the last few months. What do you think really is going to help bring more folks on chain?
I mean, I think we've just discussed it. It's, the pillars are better UX, education, safety. So I think there's not much to do except keep on building. And the good news is there's a lot of great folks building on all three of those pillars. So I think the future looks bright. The on-chain future, I suppose, looks bright.
Absolutely. And Jess, it would be great to get your kind of perspective on this as well. Is there anything that we haven't touched on that you really think could help we reach that that wider adoption that we're all looking for here? No worries. I think.
Oh, sorry. Actually, I put myself on mute. Yeah, sorry. I
No
think
worries.
everybody has great points and all the same answers. And education is definitely very key. I think so. For a space like this, would definitely help. Like tutorials, partnerships, and campaigns. I think that would definitely help. Like what Base had in the on-chain summer, I think those will definitely help bring a lot more users to understand how DeFi works, and helps them to build their comfort, to be comfortable to get into the space, as well as to build their trust.
Absolutely. No, I couldn't agree more. And yeah, it's been great kind of hearing everyone weigh in on that point. I guess Phil, it'd be great to kick it back to you.
Sure thing. And I'll just add on to the adoption conversation. I really look at this from the lens of marketing, because that's sort of my background. And education is a big thing, but it's also just about making that process as seamless as possible. I forget the exact stat, but when you have to click through multiple pages to actually buy a product, I think the drop off is like 50% for every extra click you go through. So if you think about, what's like a Web2 traditional finance experience like, now you move that over to blockchain, we're adding lots of clicks. So I think, it's user experience, it's education, it's a whole lot of things that are being worked on. And I think it's heading in the right direction. So speaking of heading in the right direction, we're not quite at the end of the year yet, so it might be a little bit early for 2025 predictions. But I'm going to go ahead and ask anyway, where do you guys see DeFi and Base in another year? Anyone want to jump in on that first?
I can try and make predictions, since we're seeing a lot of the activity kind of come through their pools, and speaking to a lot of the both internal ecosystem and curious external ecosystem teams. So Base definitely has the attention of the entire space. I think Solana and Base are probably the top two mindshare chains right now, and it's because that's where the activity is, that's where the users are. It's the best place to get onboarded to additional audiences. And I think you could start from like a macro point of view. We're seeing a hint of like a rate cutting cycle, and that's obviously going to be good for DeFi. So typically that leads to higher interest rate, higher DeFi native yield opportunities if you compare to like a TradFi, I guess risk-free rates, and that makes things attractive from like a risk-adjusted point of view. Like you're going to see more people start to bring their capital on. Good, and I think if I had to make a single bold prediction, it would be like we're sitting at about, I don't know, almost 3 billion of TVL on base, and getting to 10 billion is likely something we'll see kind of middle of 2025. Yeah, that's kind of my conservative take.
Just a conservative 3x. I love it. Anyone else have any predictions about where we're going to be in another year for DeFi and Base specifically?
Yeah, I'll throw my hat in the ring. I definitely agree with what Ace is saying. With more rate cuts, we should see on-chain yields kind of increase. I think a lot of people are also very focused on the U.S. national debt, since a lot of DeFi is denominated in USD. That's what most of the major stablecoins are not denominated in. So as we see those rate cuts and then the national debt for the U.S. increasing, I think there's going to be a little bit more volatility in treasury yields. So people are going to want to come on chain. We should see more capital come back. I think that would be my prediction for 2025. And with that, there'll be greater appetite for borrowing and leverage, which tends to drive up yields elsewhere. More trading activity means higher DEX yields. So if we see that kind of renaissance on chain in 2025, which is kind of what I'm expecting, based on activity in some of the indicators now, and we should see a lot more people coming on chain. With more activity, it kind of means a boom for all sectors on chain. I think that we're heading in the right direction for UX. So I think with more advancements in account abstraction, that should bring more people on chain. And what I really liked about what Base has done and what other players in the space have done is really highlighted the success stories for on-chain markets. Like, what are people doing on-chain that's impactful outside of just the crypto native space? Highlighting those success stories, improving UX is going to be beneficial to get people on chain, but also simplifying the experience once you're here to make it easy to participate. I think all of us are working on that same experience, and I think that we're going to see a lot of improvements there. I think the other thing that's really remarkable, I think Ace noted on this earlier, but with CVBTC, that launched like a month and a half ago, and CVBTC is already like a rocket ship taking off, very similar to Base growth. I think there's going to be a lot more growth in CVBTC, which is going to trickle over to Base and help with the increase in TVL on Base. But I think that there's going to be a big renaissance for Bitcoin DeFi. I think that we're going to see a lot of restaking in the Bitcoin sector. And I think that's going to grow across L2s and across mainnet as well. So I think a lot of those themes are going to come up and become pretty prominent in 2025. And I'm pretty excited for it. I think there's going to be a lot of innovation happening in the lending sector, and then continued innovation in the DEX sector as well. So I think 2025 should be a pretty exciting year for DeFi and on-chain markets.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of interesting catalysts within the DeFi space, and then sort of also externally, like you were talking about, stuff lining up for next year. Jess or OpenCover, you all have any sort of thoughts about 2025 for DeFi and Base?
Well, I think the first those two guys have already summarized what I definitely want to see. But I think that we want to add one more point. I think was what DeFi is, what Base has been building. I think there was a lot more marketing movements. Not only I hope to see more users and more liquidity into the ecosystem. I believe there will be a lot more project teams gonna join Base ecosystem as well.
On my end, at a sort of higher level, what I'm waiting for, I'm not sure it's a 2025 prediction, but hopefully soon, is like, when does self-custody come as default in traditional products? Like, when does my Apple Pay have a wallet by default? Because I think that's going to be a big turning point when folks who are already using all these products suddenly have an option for self-custody. And I think the bridge acquisition by Stripe is sort of like kind of a step in that direction, where we're really starting to like integrate blockchain rails into more traditional financial applications. And so that's kind of what I'm personally super looking forward to.
Yeah, I think that's going to be huge. I keep talking about, the invisibility of Web3, but I think, that's how you're going to see really mass adoption, is when, big companies are finding these use cases for blockchain and integrating it in a way where people might not even know that they're interacting with an Apple wallet, that they're self-custodying different tokens. I think that's when, everyone and their grandma can be in DeFi. That's another test I keep hearing is like the grandma test is like, when will my grandma be asking me about, how to get cover on OpenCover or, how to deposit on XtraFi or something like that. So I think we're still a few years away from the grandma test being fulfilled, but it looks like we're heading in that direction. So this is another question kind of in the same vein, actually, of the grandma test, I guess, is what's something you wish you could do in DeFi that is still not possible yet? And if it's on your roadmap, you don't have to say it, but is there anything that you wish was out there, some sort of functionality, a use case, something you could do with your tokens that's not possible right now?
I guess I'm going to start. I think one thing we would really look to see in the DeFi space is a truly seamless cross-chain experience. I think we have made a lot of progress with bridging assets cross chains, but there's still frictions when moving funds and interacting with different protocols on different networks. It would be really amazing to have a fully integrated system where our users can access any DeFi protocol on multiple chains without needing to bridge or switch wallets. I think that kind of interoperability would really unlock at the next level for our users to actually join the DeFi space.
Yeah, I would need that. I have like dust and all these different wallets that I've forgotten about when I was bridging from one to another. So that would be a great tool for me.
Yeah.
Anything else you wish you could do, Brave? Is there anything that you wish you could do on DeFi that is not possible yet that you're not already working on, or maybe you are working on, you want to share?
I think there are some products that I'm working on. I think that are more focused for teams, but as a user, I think most of the things that I would like are kind of on the technical side. Just talking about payments, like you can do this with like Gnosis Pay, right? But I'm based in the US and we don't have Gnosis Pay here. But if I could just have USDC in XtraFi or some of these protocols that are on Base or some other L2 network and earn yield and then go out and buy breakfast or pay for everyday things with those funds in real life, like that would be a huge win. And I think something similar to that concept is having something that's similar to like a savings account that's on chain that works. Like for I have a nephew and I put money in his bank account and then that goes into a CD so it generates some interest for him. So when he's older, he can use that money for school and things like that. But if you could do something where you could lock up funds on chain and kind of have the same thing, like we have the primitives for that, but I would say not a seamless experience for the average user. So if that's something that you could have like an on-chain savings account that's powered by some of these underlying protocols, that could be used in the long term. I think one of the things that we get used to on chain is there's always different iterations of protocols coming out, right? As soon as you have like one instance of a protocol, then a couple years later it upgrades and you have to migrate funds, and this kind of requires manual intervention. If there was a seamless way to move funds between new iterations, where you don't have to do it, you have some automated account, like an automated savings account, I think that would be huge for me as a user, and it would also help me onboard other people in my life who don't think that you have to be like a rocket scientist to manage funds on chain. That would be huge.
Yeah, you said it. It's all the cool stuff that the government and regulators won't let us do.
Exactly. They don't let us. I always say they don't let us have any fun. But I hope that changes here in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I'm surprised there isn't sort of like a crypto bank out there already where you can have credit backed by your crypto activity and all this stuff. It's wild how early we still are. I'm sure everyone hears that all the time. We're so early. But if you look at all the functionality across traditional finance that's not in DeFi yet, you realize we really are just sort of starting to scratch the surface of what's possible. And there's no reason why DeFi can't even be bigger than traditional finance, because it has more functionality, more possibilities. So exciting times ahead. I have one more question before I start letting everyone kind of wrap it up here. Everyone here has been building in the DeFi space for a few years at least. What would you go back and tell yourself at the start? Maybe we'll kick it off with Jeremiah.
I did start building in the DeFi or the on-chain space anyway, blockchain space in 2017, and I think not launching a token is the advice that we applied with OpenCover, because in the first iteration we did launch a token, but we didn't really need one. So ask yourself whether you need to launch a token, and in fact, not having a token does provide a lot of advantages. Like, for example, Coinbase doesn't have a token, and they've fared better than a lot of the other sort of exchanges that do. So I guess understand the big picture about having a token or not.
Yeah, that's great advice. I think a lot of projects just launch a token to launch a token, and if there isn't sort of like an underlying use case, a real way that it's adding value, you see those eventually flame out. But the ones that do have real value, that sort of capture that, they stay around and they can keep growing. But it's not a requirement for every Web3 company to have their own token, that's for sure. Jess, any advice you would go back and kind of give yourself at the start?
I think I would tell myself to stay curious and keep learning. The DeFi space moves so fast. There's always something new to explore, and definitely buy BTC.
Yeah, that's a big one. Buy BTC, buy ETH. I mean, I learned about this back in, I think, 2013 or 2014. I was in an accelerator that was half VR, half crypto. I was on the VR side. And I keep joking that if I had just invested any money I raised and any money I had in ETH at the time, you probably wouldn't hear me on the space. I'd be retired on an island somewhere. But live and learn, right?
Yeah, I think we're around the same time. I heard about it first when I was in the States. I think that was back then. It was like $1, and everybody telling me it was a scam, right? I think one of my friends actually really bought a lot, so they had each one of them. So every kids they had, they bought like 10 BTC for them. I think they're good for their year.
Yeah, that's awesome. That would have been great.
Yep.
Ace, any advice you'd go back and give yourself at the start other than, buy BTC? You're on mute if you're still here. If not, no problem. All right, we'll kick it over to easier.
I am dealing with a new fiber internet, so I apologize. My advice would be to find a good job in Web3. Honestly, even Web 2.5, if you want to consider like Coinbase or one of the centralized exchanges as an opportunity. A lot of people who have found success speculating in this space have decided to just like quit and do it full time. I was actually included in that group in 2021. I decided to launch a small friends and family fund, which fortunately did okay, but it was the most stressful and sleepless time of my life. So I would say job security is great. Find something you're passionate about, find a team you enjoy spending your time with. And it'll really help kind of, what Xtrafy was talking about, maintain the passion and focus. Like you're going to have to be, up to date on the latest innovations and protocols and opportunities. So that's my advice, is just find employment in Web3 before going in full time.
Yeah, that's huge. I almost quit my job during a NFT run of late 2020, early 2021. And luckily I did not. So, but it's a lot better to kind of go through those ups and downs when you have a firm foundation in the space, for sure. George, any advice you'd go back and give yourself?
I think from my perspective, it's really been embrace the community more. I think when I first got involved in the space, I saw it very much as the Wild West, and I wasn't aware of just how many awesome people there are out there. And over the last couple of years, making friends in the space, going to folks for advice, sharing learnings, things like that has really is one thing I would have definitely picked up earlier if I could go back. I was a little shy to begin with, and I think that there's some great people out there. You've just got to talk to them and find out.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a fun community, and you immediately have like an icebreaker with anyone because we're all into the same crazy thing. So definitely a friendly group. And if anyone in here, on the shyer side, don't be afraid to go out there, network, and just talk to people. It's going to go better than you think. And last but not least, Brave, any advice you go back and tell your younger self with more hair?
I think professionally speaking, listen to your users and have more compassion for people that are just starting out. I think a lot of times when certain people complain, the reaction is to get kind of defensive or to point them into things, but you have to really go outside yourself and have a different perspective when you're trying to explain something. I used to be an ESL tutor in college, and it was like, can you explain one concept, but can you explain it 10 different ways? And kind of coming on chain was very similar to that. So have more patience and listen to your users. And I think, like George said, like really build up that community. And because that feedback is what gets you a good product. I think that's what I would really focus on. I will say, don't be afraid to ask questions is the other thing for anybody getting into DeFi. You're not going to bother anybody in most regards unless you're spamming somebody all the time. But it's one of the only places I've ever been where you can talk to somebody who's the founder of a company and they're like, hey, how can I help you? People are very open and very welcoming. On a personal perspective, I think I would buy an espresso machine earlier and harvest my yield farming rewards on a more regular basis. But from a professional point of view, it's definitely listen to your users and take their feedback to heart because that's incredibly important when you're building a solid product.
Yeah, I'll second the espresso machine. I did that 6 months ago, and I barely have been to a Starbucks since. So huge upgrade. Well, that basically wraps us up. I wanted to thank everyone for joining and tuning in today. Thank all of our panelists for coming on and speaking with us today. Would love to kind of give all of our speakers here a chance to share any closing thoughts, a last minute pitch, or ask anything that you want the audience to hear. Maybe we'll kick it off with Ace.
Closing thoughts. I want to, obviously thank you guys for including us here and for the work that you guys do for, DeFi at large. I believe there's been a lot of progress made with, kind of Nexus Mutual and OpenCover when it comes to insurance and obviously, some of the things that you guys are doing are essential to bringing this mainstream. Closing thoughts, I still think for those who are not in the base trenches or haven't really gotten to get their hands dirty with some of the base protocols, it really does feel like the most organic kind of ecosystem in terms of the quality of builders, the dedication of the teams building to the ecosystem, and the real onboarding of users. So it's worth getting out there, either doing some liquidity provision or trading on Aerodrome. Check out how you can kind of supercharge your LPing with extra finance. And yeah, really, again, so please invite me back if you ever decide to do this again.
Absolutely, we definitely will. Jess, any last thoughts or ask for the audience?
Thank you for having us, that for sure. XtraFi, we are all about making DeFi easier and more rewarding with our Euro strategy on optimism and base. So if you guys haven't checked it out yet, now it's a great time. We'll have a lot more exciting news to come, so stay tuned and let's keep it building together.
Awesome, thank you. And then I think Jeremiah will let you take it home.
Cool. I actually have a question before I do a quick ask. Ace, how did you choose, or what was the rationale or for naming velodrome and aerodrome? Like, why did you choose those names? They sound like francophone or something.
So you might still be having technical difficulties.
Okay, then I'll just go to that. So yeah, so selfishly, we're very keen to hear as much unfiltered feedback about the base pass as possible. So if you haven't tried it out already, head to opencover.com/basepass. We'd love you to try it. We set up a link so you can try it for free. And then if you can reach out with your feedback, ideas, comments, that would be awesome. You can reach out to me directly here on Twitter. I'm at It's Jeremiah S, or you can join our Discord that you'll find on our website. And we'd absolutely love to hear the feedback, because the products we make can only be as good as the feedback that we get from users. So thanks for tuning in, and hope to hear some feedback from you guys soon.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you again, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you to all of our panelists. If you're listening and you haven't tried out the Base DeFi Pass yet, definitely go give it a shot. This is the best time to give it a try. We have a tweet pinned up top that has a link to the product hunt in there. And then OpenCover also commented on here. And if you didn't catch those links, you can always shoot us a DM or shoot OpenCover a DM. And like Jeremiah said, your feedback is really important. It helps us, create the right cover products to make sure that we are providing what you all need. So thanks again, everyone, for tuning in, and looking forward to doing another space like this in the near future. So I'll see you all on the next one.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you. See you soon.